even though we may have more people come in, I'm going to go ahead and get started. The genesis behind this meeting is that MAS picks up a fair number of new members every month. And many of those people come to our meetings. Some people come to meetings as guests and join at the meetings. Some people may find us on Facebook or just find us via Google. And people come to the meetings and we meet and get to know some of them, and some of them come for a meeting or two or three, and then the following year they don't renew. And we end up losing some members along the way. And we speculate that it may be just because they've never connected with anybody, or they didn't get their questions answered, or that there was something else, that there was a lack of connection and they didn't renew their memberships. And so we just wanted to create a device to try to meet some of those people, answer some questions that might not be getting answered through the vehicle of our regular meetings, or if those people come out to use YRS to observe or things like that. So this meeting is just intended to provide a forum to teach you guys a little bit more about MAS and to answer any questions that you might have. So I thought maybe we would start out just by quickly introducing ourselves, and I would just go down the list. We've got 10 people in the room right now, and I will recognize you and just ask you to unmute and introduce yourself. If you want to pass, that's fine. You don't have to do it, but I would invite you to do so. So I'm going to start with the top left of my window, and I'm going to have Lawrence go first.
Hi, everyone. My name's Lawrence. I'm the president of Madison Astronomical Society since about, I think, 2018, and been involved with the board a little bit before that. I think I originally joined the club in 2012, because I had just, after having a spring full of all sorts of clear nights with a very bright, prominent Mars in the sky, I was like, God, I'm going to finally buy my first telescope. So I wanted to find a place outside of the light pollution to be able to use my first telescope. And I saw that the society had a dark sky observing site. So I joined up and promptly went down there and got oriented by the observatory director at the time. So that's kind of my brief little story. Outside of the club, I'm a analytical chemist at Thermo Fisher Scientific, and my other hobbies include music as well as genealogy.
I'll go next, since I'm next on my screen anyway. I am John Rummel. I am former president of MAS. I was president from 2010 through 2015. I originally joined the group in the mid-90s in the aftermath of Comet Hyakutake and Comet Hale-Bopp. Those two events, those two comets, kind of got me back into astronomy after a long hiatus from when I was a kid. So I've been a member for, going on 30 years now. And also was previously the newsletter editor for the club. And most recently, I have become the club's unofficial lead historian, because we've done quite a bit of work on the history of the club in the last couple of years. So that's my story. Let's move on to Mike.
My name is Mike Mack, and I've been in Madison now about 5 years. I joined the club shortly after I moved here. I had been actually in the Quad Cities, and I was a member of their local astronomy club there for a couple of years. So I've been in kind of, in one way or another, a little bit in the hobby for about 7 years. And this is the first time I've ever had a hobby. So I was just, kind of all work, no play for many years, but I'm retired now. And someone gave me the advice that if you're interested in astronomy, join a club, join a local club, because it's kind of complicated. It's a lot of things to figure out, and it can go wrong, and you need people you can, and people can help you maintain your enthusiasm, teach you, try things out, and that all has been very true. What I've learned is that what you want out of it changes over time. You may start out with just observing, and then somewhere along the line, you decide you want to start taking images. And so these things evolve. You might start getting different scopes. You might do daytime, you might do deep sky, you might try wide angle. And having people you can bounce ideas off of is exceedingly helpful. And I've got a lot of benefit out of that here at MAS. And I should say, the meetings, we have extraordinarily good speakers here. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Thanks, Mike. Next up on my monitor is Chris.
Hello.
Who's got the dog?
I've got the dog. The dog is mine. I'm going to go kick him outside, go on to someone else, and I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, Sam, you're next on my screen.
Hello, I'm Sam Murphy. I moved to Madison 5 years ago this summer, and I'm a student in astrophysics at the UW, and have done astronomy and astrophotography as a hobby for a couple of years. Have not joined MAS, at least not yet, but have been sort of peripherally aware of the group for a while now.
Sam is really active on our Facebook group in case any of you hang out there. Chris, back to you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Zeltner. I've been a member for, I think, a little over 20 years. I haven't really kept track. I've been on the board twice. If I remember right, I think I was vice president for a while at some point. I'm very much the club's visual observer. I am not into astrophotography at all. I like to do visual observing, and I do it with large Dobsonians. So if anyone needs help learning how to collimate, I'm your girl. I also garden, and as you heard, I have a rather large dog.
And for those of you who know visual observing, Chris is an ace star hopper, finding things the old school way. Next up, Jacques.
Oh, thanks, John. I joined the club maybe 3 months ago now. Caught the astronomy bug, just been doing a lot of astrophotography, and thought joining a group would be a great way to troubleshoot all of the technical problems that pop up when you're trying to get a new system running. I have a small refractor telescope and CCD camera and go-to mount that I've been playing around with. I've been posting quite a few photos to the Facebook group to sort of document my adventure of getting into this hobby. It's been wonderful, like Mike said, to see the speakers. It's just incredible the caliber of individuals we're able to get and hear some amazing things from locally. Outside of the hobby, I'm a biochemist. I work on generic pharmaceuticals. I operate a laboratory on the west side of Madison for a smaller company. But we do all of our complex research and development there. It's nice to meet everyone.
Thanks, Zach. Jack Fitzmyer.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, my video isn't working. I'm Jack Fitzmyer. I'm a member of the board of MAS. I've been involved in astronomy since about 2012. I retired to Madison about 5-6 years ago. I'm very active in the Astronomical League. In fact, I'm coming to you from Kansas City, Kansas, where Alcon is happening. And I've been very involved in Astronomical League observing programs. I've finished about 30 of them, and I'm really happy to be a part of this group. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Jack. Next up on my screen is Rhonda.
Hi, thanks. I'm Rhonda Stravinsky. I live just outside of Madison, a little bit north. I took the title of the meeting very seriously as newcomer. I have not ever joined a club before, and I just I got a telescope a few years ago and had some questions, and so kind of like Michael, I got suggested to search out a local group, and so I was kind of interested in just hearing what membership entails and just meeting some new people that have a similar hobby. And yeah, I've been following on the Facebook group and I've joined a couple of the meetings online just to see the incredible speakers like you were saying, but I'm brand new to it all. So very nice to meet you all.
So nice to meet you too, Rhonda. We're going to circle back to those questions of yours very quickly. So
Oh, sounds good.
Danny, you're up next.
Oh, hey, y'all. It's Danny Glover. And from the Lethal Weapons, you may know me from such movies. I joined MAS about 3 months ago. Just looking to get into the hobby a little bit more. I have a Dwarf 2 telescope, so enjoy taking photos with that for the last 7 months or so. Yeah, have really enjoyed getting out to Yana Research Station and getting to know some folks out there and learning a little bit more about the stars and how to use a telescope. So it's been great so far. I work at Epic. I've been at Epic for nearly 20 years now. And yeah, just really excited to learn more and learn from all of you. So thanks.
Great. Thanks, Danny. Vanita, did I pronounce that right? You're next.
Yes, it's Veneta. Nice to meet you all. So I'm a newcomer as well, and I saw the title, and that's what drew me to this meeting. I wanted to learn more about the society. I live in Baraboo, so that's quite outside of Madison, but there isn't anything closer here. But I do work in Madison. I've been working at UW for 10 years now. And I do have a Dobsonian telescope, a Skywatcher, an 8-inch Dobsonian telescope, which I got maybe like 10 years ago. And I recently purchased this thing behind me, which it's a Celestron Edge HD. And that feels like such a big jump. I apologize, I have my 3-year-old with me here. So I would love to learn more about how to use it, and just in general about observing and maybe even astrophotography later down the road. So I'm very excited to meet all of you. You all seem like very interesting people, and I'm hoping to learn more about astronomy.
Welcome, Vanetta. Thank you. Matt.
Hey folks, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Matt Rodriguez. I'm also a big employee and really new to the group. I saw the title and I also thought like Roma said that this is the draw. So trying to get to know people and get into the field.
Thanks, Matt.
Mhm.
Alex, you're next.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Alex Samuel. I moved here a couple months ago from New Hampshire, and I joined the Madison Astronomical Society to sort of meet new people, and also I really enjoyed the lectures. And yeah, recently I've been going down to sort of YRS and kind of just getting more into the sort of the tech stuff. So. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this group. I feel like I've been bit by the astronomy bug, so I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, when I'm not doing this, I'm a lawyer. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, Alex. Stephen.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
I'm Steven. I moved to Madison about 2 years ago and I joined the MAS this month basically. And I wanted to join or I primarily joined the same way kind of like Lawrence did, where it's like I have some things that I want to use, like I have a telescope as well as a very basic astrophotography rig, but I didn't really have anywhere to go with it. So I was like, well, maybe I could see if I could join MAS and get to the YRS dark site. And so I've wanted to like kind of branch out more into joining some groups that are related to astronomy, because it's a pretty big interest of mine, as well. And I also do a lot of backpacking and hiking, so just all hobbies all over the place. But yeah, I'm glad to have joined here. And outside of my hobbies, I'm a molecular biologist at Promega.
Oh, great. Thanks, Stephen. And finally, Craig, you're the last one on my screen. Why don't you go ahead?
Hello, I'm Craig, Craig Jewell. I work at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and my video doesn't seem to want to start, but that's okay. Oh, here I am.
There you go.
And yeah, I joined back in December after having a telescope for about 3 years that my wife said, "Are you ever going to use?" And I still haven't gotten it out a whole lot, but I have spent a lot more time outside with binoculars, and I've increased my library reading. And I guess my interest is to learn how to use the scope, to meet other people interested in astronomy, and to not as much the photography, more of the star hopping. That just intrigues me a lot, to just kind of know the sky better. So I've been enjoying every meeting I've been to, which has been, I think, almost all of them since December. So I'm just glad to be part of it, and I keep feeling more motivated each meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig, and thank you to all of you who just went through that little self-reveal for us. A lot of you mentioned, you know, the idea of coming to astronomy, however you came to it, you know, whether it was a long-time interest or a new interest, and then looking for the group. And that's a real common refrain. I mean, that's exactly what I did in the 90s. I didn't Google it in the 90s. I don't remember how I learned about the club, but I learned about, no, I do remember how I learned about it, word of mouth, essentially. But, you know, people tend to look for a group of people with similar interests. And so you guys came to the group in that way, and that's great. That's what we want. And just before we get back to the questions, and we'll start with, we'll probably go back and start with I think Rhonda mentioned that she had some. I'll just say that with respect to those of you who have telescopes in the room, and Vanetta, we can see that Celestron behind you there. The learning curve with the new telescope does attract a lot of people to the group, because they instinctively know that there must be other people out there who have owned a similar telescope or the same telescope, and so who can help them along that learning curve. And MAS has traditionally done in our December meeting what we call kind of a telescope clinic, where we invite people to bring their telescopes for that reason. You want to learn how to use it, or probably more often for people to bring telescopes that they think may be broken or that they know are broken, and they want somebody's diagnostic and maybe repair skills. And we have had telescopes repaired right there at the meeting with some know-how by one of our members. We've also had the experience where people bring a telescope and we get a group of people standing around shaking their heads saying, you know, I don't really think that telescope is going to meet your needs. And, you know, here's why. And it's really unfortunate that maybe you spent money on it, but, you know, here's how we can help you otherwise, though. So those are real common reasons for people coming to the group. That December meeting, the telescope clinic, unfortunately, we may be diverting from that practice somewhat this December, because we actually have a program scheduled for the December meeting that we think will be worth your time, involving a couple of our members presenting on the recent explosion in smart telescope technology. The C-STAR is the good example of that. But we're still going to invite people to bring their telescopes to this meeting, particularly if you're having a problem with it, or if there's something that you want to learn about it that you can't figure out. And we realize that for some people, this is not practical. If you have an 18-inch Dobsonian, carrying it down the stairs in 3 loads might not be your thing at our December meeting. Or Vanetta, that Celestron behind you with the tripod and the telescope, and you've probably got an accessory case that goes with it. If you want to, we can help facilitate that. We've got people who will help you carry it down. But if you just want to bring parts of it, or we'll have a Schmidt Cassegrain at the meeting that belongs to Space Place, we might be able to teach you something about your telescope by referring to that one. So that's what you
Hey,
can look
John.
at in our December meeting. Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I want to say that Lawrence, as our president, has scheduled a number of star parties. So I would say that the best way to learn your telescope is to bring it to a star party where lots of our folks will be there, can help you, and view the night sky. So if you have a scope and you're not sure what to do, bring it to YRS. We've got electricity to 14 pads. We've got all the stuff you need, and it's fantastic. So, Lawrence, speak a bit about our star parties, please.
Yes, we typically like to schedule them on the Saturday that's closest to the new moon. For those of us who've been around astronomy more, we tend to maybe avoid the moon a little too much. But as far as seeing all those faint, interesting objects in the sky, we prefer to observe as close to the new moon as possible when there's just no moonlight in the sky. And we try to, I usually try to get down there a half hour before sunset, just so it's nice to have a little bit of light and set things up. And it's nice to be able to visit with people a lot. And that's a lot of what we do. And I would say, especially with people who have newer equipment or equipment that they're not familiar with, there's always an opportunity to even set up on a pad next to someone who is using a piece of equipment similar to yours, and just kind of comparing notes and learning some interesting and neat tricks to using the equipment you have. I myself, I own a few too many German equatorial mounts made by Celestron. So as far as Celestron gear goes, I'm probably one in the club that is one of the go-to people there. I know Kevin and Carol, they have although they're not here tonight, but Kevin's the vice president, and Carol, his wife, they have a Celestron equipment as well as the C-Star and other astrophotography gadgets. I've been kind of out of the astrophotography racket for a while, so I'm also a good person to ask about visual observing. And if you have a Dobsonian, Chris, who's with us, she's very frequently at Yana Research Station when there's a clear night. And she's my go-to person when I've got question about Dobsonian telescopes or Newtonian reflector telescopes. So with that in mind, the Saturday every month closest to the new moon, it's also an opportunity to gain, if someone wants to get orientation at Yana Research Station, there's always an opportunity to get there a little bit earlier, and you can see where everything's at and get familiar with the whole facility, because there's a lot of neat features about the facility, especially if you want to observe during some of the cooler months. You may have some questions, so it's I encourage everyone to get in contact with myself or our observatory director, or Kevin Santoulis. Our vice president, he lives very close by to Yana Research Station. Does anybody offhand, do they have any questions? Those of us who might not be so familiar with Yana Research Station?
Whereabouts is it?
It is in the very north part of Greene County, the north eastern part of Greene County, just below Oregon in Dane County. So if you're traveling from Madison, like I live on the west side of Madison, kind of close to Hilldale Mall. So it takes me about 40 minutes one way to drive down there. So it is on Google Maps, but if you go on, I forget the name of the highway that goes from Park Street. There's a
14.
Highway 14 that goes past Oregon, Wisconsin, and then there'll be a town that is very close to Yana Research Station called Brooklyn. And so if you search for it on Google Maps, it is located there. The trick to getting there is when you turn off the country road that we're on, and you take a turn towards the west, there's a main driveway that isn't our driveway, but you drive on part of that driveway, and then immediately to your right-hand side is where our clubhouse is and our observatory facilities are. So if you keep going straight down the driveway, you wind up in the Yana family property, which is private property, but they're very friendly with us. And just out of curiosity, it was the current owner of that land, Carson Yana. His grandfather donated this land to the club back in the early 1980s, where we've had as our dark sky site. Previously, our dark sky site was very near where Promega Labs is in Fitchburg, at what formerly was known as the Oscar Mayer Observatory, and now known as the Bell Brunel Observatory, and it got too light polluted there. So we moved our dark sky site to Greene County because the land was cheap. We got a nice donation.
And I must say, the site is wonderfully accessible. It's not a hard drive at all I live in Verona, 25 minutes. And it's easy to get to. We've made 14 new pads. So you have a pad and electrical access. So, and it's lovely dark skies. I would encourage anybody to take advantage.
And we do have some club-owned equipment there for people who are members. All members now have access to, and we have an 8-inch Dobsonian telescope, a 14-inch and a 16-inch Dobsonian telescopes that are there available for use as well. Well, the larger ones the 16-inch definitely requires 2 people to move around, but the 8-inch scope is very easy for a single person to move that around.
And I can attest to the helpfulness of the crew. If you go out on the Star Party night, I'm just very welcoming. I didn't know what I was doing, and they were kind enough to help pull out an 8-inch Dobsonian, share an eyepiece with me, help collimate it, figure things out. So, what an experience, and just can't thank you guys enough, and really encourage everybody to get out there and experience it.
So
Yeah, and I want to
ahead,
say, if I'm out there with my Dobsonian, I'm always happy to share. And I have a 12.5-inch and a 15, so you can see some nice deep sky stuff.
Let me echo Jackson Lawrence's opinions, as well as Chris and Danny. If you're looking to learn how to be an observer, learn how to use your telescope or a telescope, there is no better way to do it than to be with other people under a dark sky observing. Amateur astronomers are very, very happy to share. They're very happy to explain things and teach things, to turn the red lights on and show off equipment, or show the functions of the telescopes. Going to YRS for one of these star parties that Lawrence mentioned is probably the single best thing that you could do. But if you are unable for some reason to get out in the evenings or late at night to do that kind of observing, but you still have questions, I would invite you to come to any meeting even if we have a guest speaker, even if there's something else going on. Again, bring your telescope with you if you can, because walking into that room on meeting night with a telescope is like bees to honey. We can't resist coming over to see what you've got, to say hi, et cetera, et cetera. So please, be willing to do that. You will get the help that you're looking for, even if we have to interrupt that help, to let the speaker, get up there and do their thing. There's always 15 to 20 to 30 minutes before the meeting starts, which is just kind of social time. And then there is approximately half an hour or so after the speaker wraps up, when again, people can gravitate toward one another or toward that person who brought some equipment to ask for help or an explanation or some troubleshooting. So I would very much invite you to do that. Why don't we get back to some of those questions? And Rhonda, I want to come back around to you because I think you specifically mentioned that you had some questions. Do you want to go ahead and toss one or two out there?
Oh, sure. Well, I think one of them got answered already because one of my questions was whereabouts do you guys go for a dark sky location around here? So that was one of my questions. Another one was just like, what does membership entail? And like, what is required of members or what opportunities there are? I'm looking through the website like while we're talking. So that's, I guess, my very basic question. What prompted me to look for a group to begin with was questions about my telescope, but you've clearly gone into how I could get those answered. So thank you.
Lawrence, do you want to take a shot at what the privileges of membership are?
Yes. For adults who are are 25 years and older, we have a $60 membership that entitles everyone. I mean, our meetings are open to the public, but you're entitled to join us at all of our meetings and any other special events that we have, such as the annual banquet, which we're looking to resume after the whole pandemic happened. We kind of put a pause on having our annual picnic, which is kind of like one of our monthly meetings, except with food, drinks, and a guest presentation. So it's always a lot of fun. And then of course we have part of the yearly dues goes to our maintenance of the property that our club owns, the Yana Research Station, along with the access to a clubhouse with club-owned equipment, the concrete pads, electrical supplies, an on-site privy or bathroom. And we do have also some permanent observatory buildings with permanent piers. And one of the things we have going on is we from time to time do maintenance, and we asked for any volunteers that are available to help us out with maintenance and cleanup activities as they come up down there. I'm trying to remember. And also, of course, one of the most important things about having a membership is every membership has one vote. So when it comes to club business and you're really enthusiastic astronomer and you're enthusiastic about the Astronomical Society, well, each membership has a vote in any important matters that come up.
And for the location that you guys maintain, the Yana Research Center, is it on certain times when people will be there, like just the Star Party events, or if you're a member, you can go down there on off times?
You can go down there, and members can go there anytime they please once they've had orientation.
Oh, okay.
Once they've had orientation, they can go there anytime they wish. And they can also join, you may have noticed for people who have joined the club, we have a channel for the board members to be able to communicate with all the individual members. But we also have, just to avoid, people who don't want a lot of messages piling up in their email box, we have a separate MAS observers mail list that, when somebody realizes, wow, the skies are going to be really clear tonight. Is anybody going to YRS, which is what we call Yana Research Station. And then people say, yeah, I'll be there. Sorry, I can't make it, yada, yada, yada.
Cool.
So, or if some interesting news comes up in astronomy, they may post a message on there. So the MAS observers list is another way to kind of get in touch and be able to shoot messages back and forth with other members, and you might find members that you have, specific shared special interests with in astronomy. So that's another important feature.
To add to what Lawrence has described about access to Yana Research Station, 30 miles or so south of Madison, it has some dark sky qualities that Madison does not have because it's further outside of the light dome. And once you're a member of the club and you have received a relatively brief orientation, takes maybe 30 to 60 minutes. All the buildings are combination coded. You get the combinations, so you can go down anytime you want. Any dark night when you can get away, you can go down and access the buildings. And one of the great things is the clubhouse is heated and air conditioned. And so if you're down there on a January night, it's really nice to go inside, turn the heat on, go back out and observe for 30 minutes. And when you can't feel your hands anymore,
Or
go
feet.
to the clubhouse and warm up a little bit. Take your hat off, take your gloves off and warm up, and then go back out and do some more observing. There's a privy, a comfort station. So, you don't have to, go into the weeds and, do your business that way. It's just a very nice observing spot where you can either use club-owned equipment or you can set up your own equipment on the concrete pads that Jack mentioned. I remember when I was a newish member and I was getting to know my telescope, I wanted to get my telescope under the darkest skies possible, and YRS was about a 30-minute drive away from me. And I was down there alone sometimes, but I think most often there were one or two other people at least who would show up on a clear night. And I have great memories of one club member in particular who was a variable star observer, and he was down there observing. And I had my telescope set up and I was talking to him. His name was Dave. And Dave would give me assignments. He would say, look up, see those two stars? Point your telescope between those two stars and come back and tell me what you saw. And he taught me how to find the Ring Nebula or M13, objects like that. And I was just learning from a very experienced club member how to star hop. And I still remember that fondly all these years later, because that was an interaction with a more experienced observer that meant a lot in my formative phase as an amateur astronomer. Membership gets you more than that. I would say one of the most valuable things that it gets you is it makes you a contributor to the local astronomy club in Madison. Your $60 membership helps to support everything the club does, from outreach to maintenance to the carrying on our monthly meetings and so much more. So it's just a good group to belong to, and making a contribution. We're 90 years old. We're almost 90 years old, continuously operating since 1935, and that's a meaningful number.
I want to mention the other thing that has not been brought up is that we also do public outreach events at places other than YRS. We have a star party at Donald Park. We have Moon over Monona. I don't know what else we have on the books for this year, but taking your telescope to someplace else and setting up for the general public is an absolute blast. And even if you don't know enough, going and attending with the public it's just a really fun way to enjoy the hobby and learn.
Yeah, outreach is a blast. Participating in those outreach events is very, very rewarding. I would caution you though that we encourage people to separate the learning experience from the public outreach experience, because public outreach tends to be busy all night long with members of the public wanting to look through your telescope. Our members who are engaged in public outreach would not have very much time to help a new member learn their telescope on a night like that, because satisfying the public's desire to be able to look through telescopes takes precedence in public nights. So I would encourage you to divert back to the meetings or to YRS star parties if, you know, educating yourself and learning about your own telescope is your primary goal.
Well,
Yeah,
I was actually, yeah, thinking more along the lines of coming and seeing how we have all our telescopes set up and what we're doing. I wasn't clear.
Yeah, and it's also, you know, once you've been in the club in a while and you're looking for ways to make a positive impact on the community. The public outreach events are one of them, and there's probably room for other ideas. You know, this is what we could do, maybe, you know, to promote science education in the community. I mean, there's always ways through the board of directors and other mechanisms to, if you have ideas like that you'd like to do and take projects on, there's ways to make it happen. And if you're curious, the Donald Park Star Party is coming up on Saturday, August 10th. And then the Moon over Monona Terrace, where we go set up our telescopes on the roof of the Monona Terrace Convention Center. That's coming up on Saturday, pardon me, on Friday, the September the 13th.
So Rhonda, we can come back to you, but let's go now to Vanetta. Vanetta, do you have any particular questions or anything that you came tonight hoping to get answered?
Well, I just basically wanted to learn exactly what is what it means to be part of the club or the society, I should say. And also, I guess what you mentioned about if I can bring this and maybe you can or someone can help with help me figure out better how to use it. That sounds great. So as far as questions, I'm located in Baraboo. How far would that be from the YRS station? Sounds like it would be more like 80 miles or something like that.
Probably not 80. I'm guessing you're going to be north of an
Mhm.
hour drive to get down
Okay.
from Baraboo.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bad at all.
But
So
you know, in the past, we have done public outreach events at the Devil's Lake State Park there. And
we are very close. Yeah.
so, you know, there might be opportunities to kind of get the ball rolling just with any kind of, you know, public
Mhm.
park like that would, you know, in coordination with the people who operate the park, you know, there might be opportunities to arrange public star parties there. And I have to jog my memory. There was one time where I was at the time a big astrophotography nut, and literally me and another member, we volunteered to do the outreach party at Devil's Lake Park. And then when the park closed at 10:30 and we were driving, we drove both straight to YRS and we're up all night. And I can't remember how long it took, but I think it took maybe a little bit of over an hour. From that point, from Devil's Lake State Park to get to YRS.
Okay. I might eventually have questions, I guess, later on once I haven't even tried it out yet, this telescope. I'm hoping tomorrow, hopefully sky is clear enough. But apparently some of the technicalities around it, I didn't have the right adapter for it because it came with the one that plugs in the car, not
Oh yeah,
outlet in the wall. So I had, yes, I had to buy a separate. I bought a power tank that came with, so I should be able to power it up tomorrow and try it, align it, and see how it goes. But I don't really know honestly what would be the other like immediate accessories I might need for this. So I've been reading some on it. But yeah, I might send out some questions later.
If you stick with this telescope and use it and get to know it, let me forecast for you that you have only begun to buy accessories. Accessories.
I have the feeling, yes, that's how it is gonna be. Yeah. But
quick question: what's the aperture size of your telescope?
9.25,
So it's the
9.25.
9.25 one. So
Yeah.
and it's an F10. So when I started out, I think one decision I was very happy with I forget about the time it was, I got for $125, I got a Plossl set.
Okay.
And for like viewing planets and things, you're gonna want to go from maybe a 10 millimeter Plossl eyepiece up to as large of a large sizes of an eyepiece as you can. The 10 millimeter Plossl is going to be very good for you for looking at planets. And then if the skies, if the atmosphere is a little unstable and what you're seeing is too blurry, then you could use like try a 15 millimeter to 20 millimeter Plossl, anything that you can, any tool eyepiece kit that you can find that has those ranges between 10 and 20 millimeters. And then for looking at those deep sky objects,
I was wondering
you're going to want to go, maybe with a 25 to 35 millimeter eyepiece.
Okay. Okay. I was wondering if this is compatible with I have a set from Orion with eyepieces.
Yes.
Is it compatible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
Because I think your star diagonal, the part that the eyepiece fits into, it should be able to have an adapter for an inch and a quarter eyepieces. And also, if you take out the adapter, it'll fit 2-inch eyepieces. So any inch and a quarter and 2-inch eyepiece will work with your Celestron star diagonal.
Okay,
2-inch.
that's good to know.
Let me just jump in. 2-inch eyepieces are really nice because they're really easy to look into and they're really comfortable, but they're a lot more expensive and they're a lot heavier. They put a lot of strain on it, and you need a 2-inch diagonal, which is a lot more expensive. So kind of the inch and a quarter is the more entry level, and they're less expensive, and you can kind of get more of them for the same price.
Just look out. I advise you just to look out and see what eyepiece kits are available in your price range.
And also, don't be afraid to get used stuff. Like there's a site, Cloudy Nights, has classifieds, and this is one of those hobbies where there's always a lot of people that are getting out of it. There's a lot of older people who are retiring and estates up for sale, and so you can usually find used stuff in pretty good condition for pretty cheap.
Okay.
The hard part is knowing what to get.
Yes, that's where
but really,
I'm kind of
the
lost.
flip side of that is if you're a beginner, inch and a quarter eyepieces, get a range from 10 millimeters to 40 millimeters, and you'll be pretty good. Even if you get a 10, a 25, and a 40, you're going to be in pretty good shape.
Okay. It came with a 2-inch actually piece and that diagonal mirror. So that
it
was
does
included.
have a 2-inch diagonal.
Yes, but not the 1.25. So
yeah, it should have an adapter. At least the ones that I've always bought had an adapter, so that you could put an inch and a quarter eyepiece in there.
Okay, I'll try that.
It'll fit. It fits in the 2-inch slot, and then it should have another plastic piece that keeps dust from getting inside your star diagonal when it's in storage.
Okay. Thank you.
Vanetta, now that I heard you have a 9.25-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain, I'm less optimistic about you bringing that to a meeting. That's a lot of telescopes to carry around.
It's 21 pounds. It's the optical tube, so that's not really that heavy. But the mount is very heavy, and those counterweights came with 2 sets of counterweights. And I got the German equatorial mount 2 what is it called, CGM2, right? So
CGM2,
yes, so it says that you should unload it with more than 60% of its capacity. So I don't know where it's gonna end, but I hope it's gonna hold it.
What you have will be able to take on astrophotography as a growth path later on if you're interested. It would work very well with that.
I would love to try that eventually one day. Once I learn how to just use it for observing.
If you ever want to bring it to a meeting, and again, we encourage you to do so, contact us ahead of time, put a message up on the observer's email list or something like that. Let us know of your intention, and we'll coach you on what the best time is to arrive. And we'll also get a couple of people up there in the parking lot to help you carry it in.
Sounds great. Thank you.
I want to make people aware too. People who are new to the hobby might not understand that astrophotography is where this hobby is really growing, and there's a lot fewer visual observers than there were in years past. Part of that is we're inundated with all these incredible pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope and other professional images that visual observing from the ground with consumer grade equipment just really can't compare to. The most beautiful nebula in the sky are kind of gray, fuzzy things, even in the best of telescopes. Whereas with even a low end photography rig, you can get some pretty spectacular stuff that will get you lots of likes on Facebook and Instagram. And plus, a lot of younger people are much more technology oriented. That's really kind of the direction most of the hobby has been moving for the last decade or so.
And I think the other reason that that's happened is the software has really changed. Now,
The software is a lot easier to use.
First of all, it's easier to control it. You get the ZWO controller that can run it all night long for you while you're sleeping. You collect your data and then make your calibration frames, and you can stack them with some software. And that's where you get the resolution, because you can really increase your signal to noise ratio and get great pictures. John, that's one thing I thought I was going to mention is, one thing we could benefit from perhaps is having some tutorials about software for processing, like Pix and Insight. Maybe have somebody come in and do a talk on something like that.
Good idea. Yeah, we can do that. We're trying to balance our meetings with about 50% of our meetings, professional astronomy types from UW-Madison, and 50% homegrown presentations from members, and astrophotography elements, including image processing like you described. Those are great topics for meetings. So stand by. We'll be bringing you some of that. Does anybody else besides Rhonda and Vanetta have any questions they want to toss in? And hearing none, Rhonda, anything else? Rhonda says no.
I don't think so. Like, one of the things I'm struggling with is my go-to mount. So I can ask those kind of specific questions at one of the more appropriate times and not take everyone's time here. But thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to ask.
Yeah, well, don't be too afraid of that go-to mount. What type of go-to mount do you have?
I have a Nexstar Celestron 8 SE.
All right.
And yeah, I was playing with it and having a lovely time for quite a while, and then I did a automatic, chose something from the catalog and let it slew on its own, and it my star diagonal was on, and it started to crush it it hit the bottom, and that scared me, and so now I'm afraid to break it now. So I take everything apart before I ask it to go anywhere, and then I put it all back together. And of course, that's very cumbersome. And I don't know what I did wrong, but so yeah, I just need to be around people who have had more experience with it than me.
I did that last night with my CCD camera on mine. I'm thinking of getting you can buy like a pure extension that goes on top of the mount, and that kind of helps give you more range, where you don't have to worry as much.
I'm so afraid to use it now, so I do everything manually because I'm like, I don't want it to go somewhere that I wasn't expecting and break my equipment.
And a good way to check when you set, I don't have a lot of experience with fork mounts, but I think when you set it up and you've got kind of the star diagonal and eyepiece and whatever attachments you want to use, just disengage the clutches and just move that.
Slide it forward.
So let's move it all in every conceivable position you think that it might slew, just to see if there might be any unintended collisions or tangles up with any cables you have. I even do that at the lab when I'm going to centrifuge something, spinning around at 5,000 RPMs, you know, for a few minutes, and I make sure that the tubes aren't so long that if it's spinning around in there, that the tubes won't tip and knock into something. So it's always, I even do the same thing when I get my dishwasher running. I just make sure that everything's gonna spin fine. So you do, the telescope is the same idea.
I felt like such a dope when it happened, and I'm like, I'm probably the only
I've done it.
person that's ever
I've done
done
it. I've done it. And I remember the first time I got one of my new equatorial mounts, I even crushed my finger with it, and my fingertip was numb for like several days until the nerve healed. So yeah, it's good to just kind of, yeah, take out the clutches and just carefully explore how things are going to move around for you.
And as Zach's reply illustrates, every problem is just one accessory away from a solution.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that accessory existed, so thanks for that, Zach.
Just as a kind of a final word, we'll get final word from other people too, but at next month's meeting in August, we're planning to do a session like this in person before the meeting starts. So probably around maybe 6:45, something like that. Lawrence usually starts the meeting itself with announcements and things at 7:15. So it'll probably take about the 30 minutes before the meeting starts. And we're going to do one of these quasi newcomer sessions in person at Space Place. So we'll have announcements up about that so people know about it. All of you are welcome to come to the meeting and join us, whether you're coming to a meeting for the first time or the 50th time. We'd love to have you there. It'll be briefer than this. We'll only have about 30 minutes, give or take, but we'll do the same kind of thing and try to solicit your questions and give you the best answers we can.
And also, if anyone's curious, the next upcoming scheduled star party at YRS is on Saturday, August the 3rd. And I guess I have it down for 7:45, so sunset can't be too far after, much later than that.
So that's the meeting, that's the Saturday night immediately prior to the next meeting. I think the
Right.
meeting in August is the 9th.
And where do you post the Star Party notifications for YRS? I see that on the events, it says the one at Donald Park, but.
Right. Yeah, it's in the monthly announcements, and it's usually the monthly announcements under the upcoming club events. I'll have to double check, but I'll probably, you know, since those things are always pending weather calls, I'll probably want to send out another reminder before that, because yeah, normally we've had a weird lunar calendar where the new moon is always happening this weekend before our usual meetings.
Just want to jump in briefly and explain, we don't usually advertise the monthly member star parties on Facebook or the website, just because we want to keep those kind of members only. So we kind of differentiate between the private club events and the public outreach star parties. We've had security issues at YRS before, and so we just don't like to make them too loud, even though, you know, the address is publicly available and stuff like that. Especially now that the Facebook group has like 1,000 people in it, you know, the vast majority of them are obviously just kind of, you know, casual followers. And we haven't wanted to, you know, have public events for, you know, hundreds of people there.
So we're at a little over an hour. It's almost 8 o'clock. So why don't we just open things up for any final questions or final comments?
Sorry, just a quick question. For members who go to YRS, I was just curious what the guest policy was. If we can bring a guest or.
Yeah, you're just responsible for them.
Yeah, and I don't have the observatory rules, the written observatory rules in front of me, but we are in general, you know, if you have up to 5 guests, the observatory rules permit a member to bring up to 5 guests, and then yeah, you're basically responsible for anything that they might do.
Yeah, can those be posted somewhere, Lawrence?
What? Yeah, I could. We could probably get that so that they're posted on the website. traditionally, we're kind of changing paradigms because traditionally, when we would orient people for the first time and we give them the code, the combination to get in the clubhouse and all that, I've always given out a PDF file that has just a basic short summary of what the rules are without the big, 2-page full version of it. But I don't know if everyone that's been doing orientations has been following that.